What if the silence you are experiencing right now, the moment when God feels completely absent, when heaven feels shut, when every prayer seems to dissolve into nothing, what if that silence is not the absence of God? What if it is the calm right before the most significant thing He has ever done in your life? Stay with me, because there is a story in the Bible that proves that God's silence is not His indifference, and when you see what He was doing in the quiet, it will change the way you hear every moment of stillness from this day forward. You sent the message to heaven, you prayed the prayer, you have been faithful, and then nothing. Not a no, not a yes, just silence. And silence in a season of desperation does something to a person that is almost impossible to describe. It makes you question whether you are even speaking to someone who is there. It makes you wonder if God heard you, or if He heard you and simply looked away. You start to think, maybe it's me. Maybe I did something. Maybe I've disqualified myself from this miracle. And the longer the silence stretches, the more dangerous it becomes, because silence breeds doubt, and doubt, if you let it, grows into something that can make you walk away from the very thing you were standing on the edge of receiving. You've watched other people get answers. You've seen God move for them. You've celebrated their breakthroughs, while quietly wondering, why not me? Why is my situation different? Why does it feel like God shows up for everyone except for the person who needs Him most right now? I need you to stay in this moment with me today, because the Bible doesn't just address this feeling, it tells a story that is almost designed for the exact place you are in right now.
Go to the Gospel of John, chapter 11. There are two sisters, Mary and Martha, who love Jesus deeply, and their brother Lazarus has fallen gravely ill. So they send a message to Jesus. Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. John 11, verse 3. They sent the message. They called on Him. They knew He could fix it, and they waited for Him to come. And then look at what happens in verse 4. When Jesus hears the news, He says, "This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby." He knows. He understands the situation completely. And then, verse 5 says, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus." God makes sure we understand this. He loved them. He was not cold or indifferent. He loved them deeply. And then verse 6 delivers the line that should shake you to your core. When He had heard, therefore, that he was sick, He abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. He heard. He loved them. And He deliberately stayed where He was for 2 more days. Not because He forgot, not because He didn't care. He chose to wait. And by the time Jesus arrived, Lazarus had been in the grave for 4 days. Martha met Him at the edge of town and said what every grieving, confused, desperate believer has said, "Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died." John 11, verse 21. If you had just come when I called you, if the silence had ended sooner. Here is what you need to understand about Jesus staying those 2 days. He was not being slow. He was not confused about the timeline. He was operating from a perspective that Mary and Martha did not yet have access to. Because what He was about to do required the situation to reach a point that no human solution could touch. A sick man could have been healed by a doctor. A weak man could have recovered on his own. But a man 4 days dead, in a culture where death was final and decomposition had already begun, that required something only God could do.
Jesus told His disciples plainly in verse 15, "I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent ye may believe." He was glad, not glad that Lazarus suffered, not glad that the sisters were in pain, but glad because what was about to happen would produce a level of belief in them that a healing never could have. The silence was not a malfunction. The silence was the setup. God was positioning the situation beyond human possibility so that when he moved, no one could take credit for it, no one could explain it away, and everyone who witnessed it would have to reckon with the presence of the living God. And before Jesus called Lazarus forth from the grave, he said to Martha in verse 40, "Said I not unto thee, that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God?" The glory of God. That was the destination of the silence. Every quiet, confusing, painful day of waiting was pointing toward a moment of glory so undeniable that many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did believed on him. Verse 45. The silence produced a miracle that produced a testimony that produced mass belief. That is what God is doing in your silence right now. He is positioning your situation for a level of glory that a quick answer could never have produced. Let these settle into the deepest part of you. God's silence is not his absence. It is his strategy. If he had come when you called, you would have received a healing. He is staying away so you can receive a resurrection. And hear this one. The miracle that requires the longest silence will produce the loudest testimony. Hold on. The glory is on the other side of this. I want you to notice something profound about Martha's faith, even in her grief. When she met Jesus on that road and said, "If thou hadst been here, my brother had not died," she didn't stop there. She said in the very next breath, "But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee." John 11, verse 22.
Even now, even after 4 days, even after the silence, even after the grief had settled in and the stone had been rolled over the entrance of the tomb, she said, "Even now." That is not the prayer of someone who has given up. That is the prayer of someone who has chosen to trust what they cannot see over what their circumstances are saying. And that is the posture God is calling you to right now. Not denial of your pain, not performance of faith you don't feel, but the stubborn, costly, deeply personal decision to say to God, "Even now, even in this silence, even after this long, I still believe you are working." David captured it in Psalm 62, verse 1. "Truly my soul waiteth upon God, from him cometh my salvation." And in verse 5, "My soul, wait thou only upon God, for my expectation is from him." Only upon God, not upon circumstances that confirm it, not upon signs that reassure it, only upon God. That is the posture of the soul that receives the miracle on the other side of the silence. And Psalm 25, verse 14 reveals something even deeper. "The secret of the Lord is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant." The secret of the Lord. What God is doing in the silence is a secret, something he shares with those who fear him, who stay close to him, who don't abandon the relationship when the answers don't come immediately. He is doing something that only people who remained in the silence with him will ever understand. And when it is revealed, it will be so undeniably God that you will understand why the silence was necessary. And Psalm 46, verse 10 brings it all into focus with one command, one of the most powerful commands in all of Scripture. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. In the silence, in the waiting, in the 4-day tomb of your situation, be still. Because the God who spoke the universe into existence has not lost his voice. He has not lost his power. He has not lost track of you. He is in the silence with you, and he is working. So today, before you interpret the silence as abandonment, I want you to look at it differently. I want you to look at it the way Martha had to learn to look at it, not as the absence of love, but as the presence of a plan so much larger than what you asked for, that it required more time and more depth than a quick answer could carry. Jesus loved Lazarus. He loved Mary. He loved Martha. And his love chose the path of silence, not because love doesn't act, but because love acts at the right time, in the right way, for the right purpose. And what his love produced on the other side of that silence, a man walking out of a tomb,
was worth every excruciating day of waiting. Your miracle is not late. God has not forgotten your name. He is doing something in this silence that quick answers could not accomplish. And when he finally speaks, when he rolls away the stone and calls forth what you thought was dead, you will look back at this very moment of silence and understand why it was necessary. Be still. Stay close. Keep believing. Even now. If this message found you today in the middle of God's silence, leave a comment below. Just say, "Even now, Lord." Let that be your declaration over this season. And if this channel has been strengthening your faith through the waiting, subscribe and stay with us. Every single week we come back to the Word and we find our way back to trust. The silence is not the end. It is the preparation for the glory.